Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
And now, the Federal Drive with Terry Gerton, sponsored by GEHA.
Welcome to the Federal Drive on Federal News Network. It's Monday, May 4th. I'm your host, Terry Gerton, and I'm glad you're here. It's Public Service Recognition Week. All week, we're focused on the people who keep federal work moving, how policy turns into operations, where the pressure points are, and what federal employees are navigating right now. Coming up on this hour of the Federal Drive, in government, offering your best professional advice doesn't guarantee it will be taken, especially when leaders choose another path. Plus, Congress already strips pensions for some crimes. A new bill would expand the list. Those stories and much more ahead on this hour of the Federal Drive. We begin with this. More than 100 Environmental Protection Agency employees were disciplined last year after signing a declaration of dissent. Many of those employees are now pursuing formal legal remedies, alleging unlawful retaliation. Here with the latest is Federal News Network's Drew Friedman. Drew, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
A year seems like a long, long time ago in our memories. How did this situation start?
This all started last summer when we had actually more than 600 EPA employees who signed this public declaration of dissent, as they called it. And it was a public letter that criticized EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin's policies at the agency and was raising concerns that Trump administration's leadership at EPA was reversing scientific progress, undermining public trust, and many, many other issues listed in this letter. After it was published, EPA leadership quickly launched an investigation into the employees who had been named in the letter. So by about last fall, it ended up that there were essentially three different groups of discipline for these employees who had signed the letter. Some received proposed termination notices, others, probationary employees, were outright fired, and then others were put on 2-week suspensions without pay. Many of these employees have been taking legal action over the last several months against EPA leadership as a result of this. They're now represented by the Government Accountability Project and Lawyers for Good Government. And I spoke recently with David Seid, who is counsel at the Government Accountability Project.
I think they're vitally important because employees do have rights, constitutional rights, statutory rights, whistleblower rights. We're zealously representing them because they've been wronged, and we think they should be vindicated because that's what the law and the Constitution expects.
Drew, what are the allegations at the core of the employee's case?
These generally fall into two buckets. One is that they're alleging violations of the employee's First Amendment rights. And then the second is federal whistleblower protection laws. They believe there were violations there. The First Amendment issue is pretty straightforward. They simply believe that as individuals, they have the right to speak up in their personal capacity. And then as for the alleged violations of federal whistleblower laws, if we look at what those laws are designed to do is protect employees from retaliation when they report suspected wrongdoing. And reports are considered protected by whistleblower laws when they involve a legal violation, gross waste of funds, gross mismanagement, abuse of authority, or a danger to public health and safety. So the lawyers for these EPA employees say that the declaration of dissent that they signed has all of those elements in it, and therefore it should be considered a protected disclosure under whistleblower laws. Those can also generally be disclosed or made public if there's not information contained in them that's prohibited by law from being released. So there's another argument there for, it's okay for this to be made public as well. And it was published online.
There's already a separate case on this at the Merit Systems Protection Board. Why do we have these two separate actions?
This is because there's a difference in how employees were disciplined as a result of the letter. Employees who were fired or terminated are dealing with that case at the Merit Systems Protection Board. They argue their terminations were a form of retaliation. again, for similar reasons as these other bucket of employees as well. But the ones that are going to the Office of Special Counsel now, which is the employees who were suspended for 2 weeks without pay last year, that level of penalty doesn't meet the requirements for filing a case at the MSPB. MSPB in most instances only handles disputes if there was a suspension that lasted for longer than 14 days. So if you're only going up to that 14-day threshold, then you wouldn't be able to file with MSPB. Therefore, they're turning to the Office of Special Counsel. Ultimately, this is two separate cases with very similar allegations and coming from the same group of EPA employees and both looking for the same end result here. And David Seid, again, from the Government Accountability Project, explains a little bit more about why they're going to OSC.
These folks were disciplined for exactly 14 days, so they were under the threshold. So these are more cases, same topic, same issues, but it's to get at a group that was overlooked. We're providing a vehicle for those people to have their rights vindicated too.
Drew, what is the status of these complaints and what are the next steps?
So far, there have been 15 complaints that were filed with the Office of Special Counsel. It's not clear whether those complaints yet are being investigated or what OSC's position is on these. But the lawyers for these EPA employees say that many more complaints are going to be filed pretty soon here at OSC. And they're seeking relief for these EPA employees, essentially providing them back pay, removing or scrubbing their records of the suspensions from last year, allowing them, if they miss out on a promotion or a raise as a result of the suspension, to be made whole for that. And I spoke also with Justin Chen, who's president of Council 238 at the American Federation of Government Employees, and just his stance and the union's stance on these issues here.
Our hope is that the Office of Special Counsel does their job and investigates the issue and, finds favor for our members. If the agency and management knows what's best, they should be providing restitution for these members. They should be paid back for all their damages, at the very least restore everything that they lost during the course of their suspensions, clear their records, and apologize to them.
Drew, there were other letters of dissent that came out around the same time, FEMA, NIH, some others. Do you think that these cases are going to be precedent-setting across the board?
It's possible. And there was actually just recently some news, I believe, that some of the FEMA employees who signed that letter were reinstated recently. So it's possible to see similar actions happening across these different agencies. It's absolutely a pattern. It's not just EPA on its own. But, I think there is kind of this pattern where you have employees who are exercising First Amendment rights, as is their belief, and, having the Trump administration push back. So some of these cases are still unclear in the outcomes, but definitely a pattern here.
That's Federal News Network's Drew Friedman. Drew, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
You can find her full story at federalnewsnetwork.com. Up next, Congress already strips pensions for some crimes. A new bill would expand the list. This is the Federal Drive with Terry Gerton on Federal News Network.